All right, everybody. Good evening and welcome back to another episode of the Professional Brotherhood podcast. I don't know why I do that good evening thing. I probably do the good evening thing because it is evening that we are sitting here, even though people will more than likely be listening to this when it gets posted at like 6 o'clock in the morning or sometime during the day. But hey, Kara, welcome back.
Hi, thank you.
How are you?
Great to be here as usual.
Yes. Well, hey, you're on a roll again. This is our second episode in one weekend recording together here. So
Yes.
yeah, you're on a roll. Um, Carrie, you have hooked us up with a another great guest this evening that I'm excited to talk to. If you wouldn't mind doing the honors and introducing him, that'd be awesome.
Absolutely. We're very excited to have Lieutenant Paul Haynes with us tonight. Thank you, Paul, for joining us.
Thank you. Honored to be
Paul,
here.
Paul is a lieutenant on Rescue Company 1 in Syracuse Fire here in central New York, the real upstate. And he's been on with the department for 19 years. And he was also a prior volunteer with East Syracuse Fire, correct?
Yeah, 23 years.
Right. And he's also a New York State fire instructor. And he's also with New York State Association of Fire Chiefs. He does the hands-on regional training and the seminars with that. Did I miss anything?
No, that's perfect.
All right. An all-around swell guy.
Paul, thanks for joining us on the show. I appreciate it. I know we've been trying to put this together for a little while now, and it's always a little bit of a challenge with everybody's conflicting schedules. But I'm really happy to have you. I know you've been doing some teaching for quite a while now, and just funny story that we can share with everybody prior to diving into it. I love the connections that we make here in the fire service that sometimes you don't realize. So prior to getting on the air, Paul pulls out a attendance roster from 2002 where we were both in the same class getting our instructor 1 certification. So it's it's wild to connect a few years later in a different setting, but I'm excited to have you. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So let's dive into it. You've had a long career in the fire service, both on the volunteer side and on the career side. You speak often about rescue ops, obviously being a lieutenant in a rescue company, kind of a good pathway to be in. But I know one of the things that Kara mentioned when we first started talking was, the course that you teach for the state fire chiefs on rescue operations for the volunteer fire service, and tips and tricks and those low frequency incidents that occur. So let's jump into it.
All right. So with the state chiefs, the rescue ops program is just a few-hour seminar. It's basically to get some people thinking. There's a lot that goes on in the volunteer districts, the career districts, and everybody's out. It's harder for the volunteer side to stop and look at what's going on in the district. But when they're returning from alarms, it's good to pay attention and, hey, let's go back and look at this or that. Trenches, outside of the ordinary stuff that they have in their district that they don't realize.
Sure.
So, that's a big thing. It's just an eye-opening thing. And then paying attention to what history is going on in the fire service, what events. It's like the kid coming to school bringing the current events ad, newspaper clipping back in the day. Yeah, hey, did you see this incident happened here or there? What tools do we have to work through this? What's our level of training? What's our resources? What's our availability? So that's a lot of what that's based on.
Gotcha. So one of the things, that I know is a challenge especially in the volunteer service is, well, in any part of the fire service. I mean, when something is wrong, who's going to get called, right? It's going to be the fire department. And I know one of the big challenges is how to approach some of those more specialized events, like you just mentioned, whether it's trench or building collapse or water rescue or what have you. And, I know some of the challenges for the smaller companies are, all right, we know we're going to get called. But when we get called, are we trained to do anything? And if so, what can we do? Right. So I'm sure that's something you deal with often and discuss as well.
Well, we go through our initial training. Back in the day, it was EF. Now you go to, taking the BFO class, the IFO class.
Yep.
You might get the new V-roll accident extrication type class out of that.
Yep.
You may have to have a FAST or a firefighter survival class to respond mutual aid in some of the volunteer departments. But outside of that, there's no set rescue class.
Right.
So it's important to understand, the hazards that come along with that. You get a little bit of awareness when you go through that with confined space or trench. And there's a lot of things that we don't realize are really that important when we go to an alarm.
Right.
It's just as far as finding out how many people are involved, how long they've been in the situation, keeping other bystanders from becoming, would-be rescuer victims, controlling that scene. That's a big part of, on the volunteer side, when you don't have that training, it's just making sure that you can get that stuff taken care of.
Sure.
It goes along with that life safety, scene stabilization, So we're just trying to stabilize it and figure out what resources we need to handle this, to mitigate it.
Right. Absolutely.
And in the, I attended the seminar and it was great. I really enjoyed it. I really learned a lot. And one of the things that you talked about were just some of the fairly simple things that you can do. Like when you roll up on MVA, grabbing the chocks immediately when you're walking towards the scene, rather than going empty-handed to look at it and then go back to the rig and get something, and those kind of things. Can you share with the listeners some of the tips that you have just for simple stuff that you can do to make your flow and your speed better?
Sure. Some of the things that we take for granted sometimes, we go to alarms, and the topic of the seminar is the rescue ABCs. It's having that plans A, B, and C.
Right.
Well, consistently, we go to a house fire, we get a hydrant, we stretch a hand line. That's what we start with. It doesn't matter if it's a little fire or a big fire. We're going to start with water. When we go to a car accident, we need to make sure that we're getting our step chocks and our wheel blocks. And then that gives us time to take those to the vehicle, get them placed on the vehicle, whether it's side resting, roof resting on its wheels, it doesn't matter. We can find an appropriate place to put them. It gives us a second to size it up, process what's going on. And then our second trip is where we're getting the tools that we need to make that situation better. If we walk off the rig empty-handed to go look at it, well, let's look at it first, and then we'll come back and get something. Chances are we're already going to need step chocks, we're going to need wheel blocks.
Right.
So, it's that preparation stuff. I hear in a lot of the podcasts you've been doing, being ready for the alarms. That's really what it is. That's where plans A, B, and C come from. It's just being prepared for what may happen, understanding how to use the tools in different ways that are safe to mitigate that. So, you get off the rig, you're carrying the tools, the equipment you need. You get a good start on it. You get some eyeballs on it. You get other people looking at it. And, a little bit of that is with like crew assignments, kind of having a seat when you're riding that seat. At work, it's very easy for me at work.
Sure.
We ride with 6 guys on the rescue, a driver, myself, and 2 teams of 2 in the back. So when we go to a car accident, we've got, everybody's got a job. And even on the volunteer side, I was with East Syracuse Fire Department, and they just got a new big heavy rescue.
Yeah.
But they're a department that does a lot of motor vehicle crashes. They cover 481, the New York State Thruway, other highways. So they get a lot of work. So it's important that, they're doing the basics just like we are, and having, a set plan. If you don't have a plan to start with, it's hard to recover.
Right. It's like setting yourself up for success, right? And kind of thinking ahead to the low frequency, high risk things in your area. And I know that we talk a lot about knowing your first due area and what's in it. And I think a lot of times people think from the fire mindset about that. And
Absolutely.
they're just thinking about, what building construction they have in their first due area, where their hydrants are, or if they're in a non-hydrogen area, they have dry hydrants, or where their fill sites are for rural water operations and things like that. But I think that probably for some departments, there's that piece is missing, right? Like looking around and seeing what potential hazards or risks for rescue operations might exist.
It's, and a lot of that is out of, trade magazines, some social media, as, previous instances happen, like I said, and going back through. And then, you play the association game. What game, what type of situation do we have in our district that's possible? We're getting to springtime and they're going to start doing work, and you look at some of the trench rescue calls where they've happened in other cities. What do we have? Where's our resources for that? Before we would put that would-be rescuer in there.
Yeah, for sure. And I do quite a few of the awareness level classes on a lot of the different specialties, and I think a lot of the people that sign up, and you could probably relate to this, a lot of the people that come out for those classes, I think they come out, oh, this is going to be a good, this is going to be a quick 3-4 hour, I'll get my certificate and go home, get a few hours of training in. But, one of the things I always try to do is open their eyes to the fact that, yeah, sure, maybe it's a trench awareness class, or maybe it's a water awareness class, or whatever it may be. These are all things that, whether you think you do them or not, could conceivably happen in anybody's fire district, and you should be paying attention to this stuff, because it's important that, you know what you don't want to do, and what you can do to set yourself up for success. And then, the big piece is, okay, so if you know that you're not going to be able to mitigate that situation, who's going to be able to mitigate that situation, and where are they
Right.
coming from?
Yep. We have a written plan that says, our box alarms, we have a fire, we're getting these departments.
Right.
If we have a water rescue, who are we getting? There was a thing in Monroe County the other day. They had, I think, 2 or 3 people on the ice. They had another half a dozen people on the ice, and they were trying to get resources there to get these people off of the ice. And it took them a little while to do that. But,
Sure.
everybody had a plan and they had a job, and it was all successful for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think that's the piece that a lot of times, at least what I see in my little part of the world, that's a piece that's often missed. I'll talk to fire chiefs, and, let's use ice rescue for an example. They know they don't have any manpower for it. They don't have any equipment for it. And I'll say, okay, but you've got 3 bodies of water that I can count in your district, and I don't even live there, so what are you going to do when that incident happens? Well, we're going to call XYZ company. I'm like, all right, well, how far away are they?
Yeah.
Oh, they're on the other side of the county. All right. So shouldn't you be thinking about, all right, maybe this should be an automatic alarm type situation, a box assignment type situation, where, what, if we get that ice rescue, that equipment and manpower is automatically coming. And if you don't need them, feel free to turn them around, but you're going to buy yourself some time right out of the gate,
Yep. Be proactive with it,
Sure.
Instead of reactive, get it started. That's the hard thing too. Some volunteer departments, they're very rural,
Mhm.
and it's hard to, understand that when you get there, don't wear your turnout gear into the water. Don't do certain things. And, we get that feeling that we have to do something.
Sure.
Like we said earlier, all those little things we can do, keeping the people away, seeing how long they've been there, how many people were there, and start controlling the scene that way, stabilize it.
Yeah. Yeah, that need to act, that duty to act feeling is definitely is a consideration, because and look, I think we've all been there at one point in our career or another where you get to something early on, and I know it's happened to me over the years. You get to something early on, in the old days when we used to respond in POVs. It's kind of like pulling up to a house fire. You're there with your bunker gear and your trunk of your car, and you're standing there waiting for an engine.
Yeah.
There's
It's a bad feeling.
yeah, there's really no feeling like that at all. The neighbors were all looking at you, saying, okay, that's great, you're here,
You're going to do something?
where's the fire
Yeah.
engine?
Yeah.
It's a really sharp looking outfit.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
We had a
But,
fire the other day at work, and everything's happening, and people are like, "You gonna put water on that?" Yeah, give us a second.
yeah,
It's all coming.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Funny,
There's a plan.
funny story. This is several years ago, but when I was an early officer and had all the lights and siren and everything on my personal vehicle. I don't remember what I was driving at the time, but it did kind of look like a undercover police car. And I'll never forget pulling up to the scene of a fire and jumping out and getting dressed, and some woman looking at me saying, "We didn't call the police, we called the fire department."
Whoops.
Yeah, the engine will be here in a minute. Trust me, they're coming.
Yep.
But yeah,
We didn't call the fire department. We called for an ambulance.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
Get
Same
that
thing.
a lot too.
Yeah, absolutely. But going back to the ABCs for a minute, another thing that we often talk about on certain certain specialties, certain types of incidents, but it really is a mindset for everything we do in the fire service, right? Because if you have a plan A going into whatever it may be, even a structure fire, there should always be a fallback plan. Like, all right, if this doesn't work, what happens next? And I don't think firefighters always think of it that way, as all right, listen, here's plan A, all right, if this doesn't work out, what's our next plan? What's our next plan? What's our plan after that? And that really is a mindset, not just for officers, people at the officer level. It's a mindset for firefighters as well, to be thinking like that.
And your firefighters need the why. You know what I mean? When they show up for drill night, they need to have a productive drill, and they need to get the why we're doing it this way. It's not like democracy or anything, this is the way we're going to do it, but they need to kind of understand why. And if they can understand why, they're more apt to follow that guideline or SOP that you have.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I know we, in the last few months, made some changes on our cross lays and how we were packing them. And of course, for the guys, it's been done the same way, and myself included, done some certain things the same way for a long time. But they're like, well, why are you doing this way? It's harder to pack it like that. It takes longer. Not everybody's going to know how to do it. I'm like, well, listen, we'll get there. I'm like, here, let me show you why, and then I walked over to the hose lay, threw the thing on my shoulder, and and stretched the entire thing all by myself. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, that is a little easier, but you're right. Once you show them that why, that's when you get that buy-in.
Yep. And it's, it's hard to do sometimes as an officer to get them to buy into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things too that just struck me is when you're doing the training and the drills, and you're training for these like not often occurring events that are happening. Sometimes you're not getting out all the tools, right? Like you mentioned during the seminar that there's always like a mystery box of tools, and then people, the new guy might be like, "What's that for?" And the senior guy's like, "I don't know, I've never used it."
Yep. We have the drills at work, and as we start to use our tools, once they use one tool once, you're done. Find it. Next guy's got to find a different tool. And you start to bring out these tools that have been sitting on the rig for ages, and nobody knows why they're there. The old toolbox. We have a brown toolbox is what it's named, but it's actually a red toolbox because it was always called the brown toolbox. So it just stays that way. You know,
Yeah.
and it's our assortment of tools.
But I think getting people to think like, okay, well, you're not just going to always go right to your hydraulics, or you're not going to always be able to, do like what is the path of least resistance because of the angle or because of whatever situation is the condition of the patient or where the patients are located and whatever type of emergency it is. And then seeing what some of the other things are used for and how they work rather than just your automatic go-to is so valuable. And I think it's really underutilized in terms of training scenarios.
Using your tools is one of the hardest parts. That, you're fundamentally, those are your basis for what you can do. And when you use them in different situations, you find out what works and what doesn't. So when it comes time to use it, you get that little outside the box thinking, and you start to put it together like, hey, we can use this tool. The other day at work, we had a drill, and we were it seems like there's a bunch of alarms lately other places with tractor trailers hanging off of bridges.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to try to move a heavy object a few feet. So we had an old rig, and we set up some pickets, and we were trying to use different tools. And you got to see a little advantage to using one tool over the other tool, between hydraulic tools or grip hoist and winches. So it's kind of cool just to get to see what worked better. So when it comes time, you can build that Rolodex and be like, hey, maybe we can try this tool or that tool.
I love the idea of doing the training, and as things are used, taking them out of the scenario. Because I mean, how many of the people listening to this podcast have a great big heavy rescue with a ton of equipment on it, and probably 5% of that equipment is consistently used, and the other 95% just sits there and is rarely
Just rides
ever
around.
used. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
I love that idea.
You probably took the old AVET class back in the day, right?
Yeah, for sure.
With the farm jack and all that stuff. And then we had one guy come in once and do a class, and it was basically a hand tool class. And we did auto extrication just using hand tools, nothing hydraulic, Yeah. And you get a little perspective on how nice it is when you have hydraulics, but it gives you, that backup plan.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And yeah, we still try and do those, at least a few times a year, where it's, we set up an auto extrication drill, and everybody rolls in and assumes that, all right, we're getting out the hydraulics, we're getting out the power tools. And we're like, oops, sorry guys, out of service, and you always get that look like, shit, I got to work now,
Yep.
Yeah. Well, what's your plan B? Oh, well, we'll get the hydraulics from the engine. No, they're out of service too. I don't know what happened. Everything's falling apart tonight.
Yep.
Good.
And we gotta do something. We gotta be decisive and make a decision.
Yeah, for sure.
And learn how to use what you have in different ways and for different scenarios. Because I think that, every department has to deal with, MVAs and things like that. But then when you're dealing with something that's like totally random, and you're figuring out, well, maybe I can use these airbags in a different way to help with this scenario or whatever it may be, it just gives you an opportunity to start having that mindset that there's not one tool for one job.
Yeah. That's the way it needs to be. Just a wide open, 800 tools on the rescue. You got a lot of variety. You just got to figure out how to use it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one of the other things is what Brian was talking about earlier is like knowing your resources and who you have to head your way. And, for in my area, or in the city, you guys have, like rescue ones there, and you guys have hazmat in your fire department. So you can actually go a pretty fair distance, correct?
Yes. Yeah. The hazmat team itself is for multiple counties through, federal money and state money and all that. So yeah, they travel pretty far, and the rescues traveled far too outside of the city for different events. They've had events at quarries where they've needed rope assistance. So then you're going out, you're doing rope work in the county. They had a guy who was trapped in a hydraulic turbine in a river, and they went out to that to assist in. That was a recovery, but they went out to assist with that. So what's nice is when we have 2 rigs in service is that we can hopefully get a recall and get another rescue in service timely.
Right.
But if it's a volunteer department, your equipment now could be somewhere else. You know, if it's
Right.
a countywide rope team and they're going
Right.
somewhere, they might have the supplies, and now your district is without that piece of equipment.
Sure.
Right. So like in my district, my department that I'm on, we are part of the county rope teams. We have a cache of rope supply, and we have Chenango Falls State Park in our first due district. We also have a county park that's in a district that we would go to for mutual aid that also has a waterfall, some low angle stuff like that. So we as a department train, whether you are rope rescue on the rope rescue team, or if you're just part of the department, because there's that delineation for us. You know, like I'm on both. I'm on the county rope rescue team, but I'm also a fireman with my home department, and we still do drills with all of us together, because everybody's going to have a role. You need a lot of manpower for stuff like that, especially at the falls, and we are there fairly frequently. We go to the falls a lot. And so I think that, you know, it might be intimidating for some volunteer departments in particular to think about training for these events and what their role would be. But can you talk a little bit about, you know, what just your basic firemen would have, what they would be doing in some of these rescues?
A lot of that is, it could be line handlers, it could be the
Right.
hall, it could be setting up your department apparatus if they needed a high point, you know, an artificial high point or something like that we were going to use. So you need a driver that's going to understand the capabilities of their apparatus, because we're not going to bring ours with us, you know.
Right.
So we're relying on some of that equipment, and we're relying on the manpower, because they'll
Right.
send the rescue with the guys, but they won't send our normal. We do a lot of stuff per district in the city. Like if we get a rope call, we'll get the engine company or the truck company from that district. We don't have a designated rope truck or a confined space truck or anything like that.
Mhm.
So you're just going to get 6 guys. So when we show up, we're going to need your resources to be the, you know, the 20 mule team to haul this person up or
Yeah.
lower.
Yeah,
I'm
there's going to
curious.
be there's going to be a
Sorry.
role for people though, right? Like
Oh,
there's
yeah,
it's
definitely.
like I guess my point is, like, don't assume that you're never going to have to do this kind of work.
Oh, no. And it could be, you know, just getting stuff set up until your department shows up, you know, with a rope, you know, and
Yeah.
making sure that the would-be rescuers, you know, and sometimes it's hard for people to call for help. And that's the, you know, that's the big thing is we need to, you know, do what's best for the customer, do what's best for that person that's injured. You know, we want to get them the best care we can as fast as we can.
Right.
And sometimes that might be the best option.
Right.
Yeah, sometimes folks can be a little possessive of their first due area, you know, and
Yeah.
not want to call for help. And, you know, especially when it's something that you know that you don't have the training or the manpower to handle. You know, you hit the nail on the head. You're only doing the customer a disservice by not, you know, getting that assistance there as soon as possible. And one of the things that I know we found successful, we found success with in our area is there's a couple specialties that we handle for our county. And one of them is, you know, swift and flood rescue. And a couple of years ago, we got into UAS and drone operations. And we did a lot of outreach, you know, like going to the departments and explaining, hey, listen, this is what we have, this is what we bring to the table, this is how many guys we have to do it, but we're not coming in to take over your scene. You know, we're there as a tool in your toolbox to help you. And just like you said, we're going to need your manpower. You know, we did a river rescue a couple years ago, you know, and we only rolled in with, I think, 6-8 guys maybe. I mean, we had guys from the local whose district it was, they were help setting up lines. We had troopers working lines. I mean, we had basically anybody that was available and knew how to, work a rope or could fit in a PFD and was, capable of working. So it's a team operation.
And like you said, it can be intimidating, when you show, when you say that, for example, if Syracuse is coming or, your department's going somewhere else and you guys show up and you're you're trained in that,
Sure.
discipline, and you get off the rig and then you're like, we're just here to help out. We don't
Right.
want to take over your scene. We just want to help you out.
Yep.
And sometimes people get intimidated when someone else comes into their kingdom and they're like, yeah, but we need to, I don't know, just work together.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing too, is just the understanding, it's that education and understanding that, hey, this is the best for the outcome.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. And look, I think I'm a firm believer. It's a two-way street, because I've worked with people that do come in with that attitude, like we're here to take care of your problem,
Yeah.
and that's never a good mix either. That doesn't help out anybody.
Oh, that's not a good.
Yeah, it's not. It's just not a good way to come into a situation. And but like you said, like me, I'll roll in and I'll walk over to the incident commander and be like, what do you got, and how can I help you?
Yeah.
And that usually sets the whole moment at ease a little bit when they realize, oh, all right, these guys are just here to help me get out of a bad situation.
Yeah, and it's like, you get promoted or something like that. You're the new guy. You kind of got to prove yourself, and you got to make sure that everybody understands where you're coming from. Same thing with that. When
Sure.
you go somewhere, you just got to get an understanding. You do it a couple times, and then word gets out, hey, they were a good resource. They helped us out, and things went well.
Absolutely.
And I think it's important to, reach out prior to the incident to happen too. Like, there's nothing wrong with inviting a different department or different people that have a level of expertise that your department doesn't have experience with to come to a drill and talk about, different options and different things and the way that your group works and that kind of thing before an incident happens, so that you can form those relationships on a professional level and learn some of the faces and the people that you're working with before the shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's big.
The thing with that too is when you get the perspective of somebody coming in and talking, maybe it's an avenue of, hey, we have enough chance for rope work, we have enough chance for water work. Maybe the chiefs, we can start to get some money for some training, some equipment, and maybe we'll start, leaning towards us doing a little bit of this. It might build where guys want to be interested in it. Maybe they just don't understand actually what's needed and how to do it. But once they see someone else talking about it and doing it, it might help your department out too.
Yeah. Yeah. And Kara, that training, I think, getting together on the training ground prior to, and, and sharing information and getting to know people, that puts everything at ease too in the real life, in the emergency scene, because now you have some sort of a relationship. It's not your first time meeting those people. And I think that's a big step for, an overall successful operation, because everybody's just coming into the situation feeling a little bit more comfortable about who they're going to be working with.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I think that I've really appreciated since starting doing this podcast over the last year and talking to so many people from different parts of the world is we really are pretty fortunate here in New York when it comes to fire training and what's available to us at virtually no cost. Some of the facilities and the instructors and the things that we have available, and, some of the things that the various associations put on, they're all top notch, professional stuff. And that's not the same way state to state,
No.
You have a lot of resources available, like you said, and they're pretty inexpensive. And even stuff with the state, if you're getting into the tech rescue side, the OFPC is great for coming in and helping you out with that stuff and getting
Yeah.
you lined up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Pretty much if in any area, if you, say we would like to have this class brought to our county or whatever, they can make it happen for you, especially if there's an interest. And if you're tapping into your neighboring departments for people that are interested, that helps too, because then you're making those connections again. And then you can, like you said, you can start to build a little rescue program in an area of specialty that would be beneficial for more than just you and more than just your group. And then you're building those relationships again from the get-go, and you're all learning together.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Being like an optimist with I know in East Syracuse back in the day, we did a lot of, we did the trench rescue stuff. We had all the equipment for that. We did a lot of confined space because we had New Venture Gear, which was up here, that built transfer cases for Dodge, Ford, Chevy, big industrial site. We had Carrier Corporation, Bristol Myers Squibb. So there was a lot of confined space stuff going on. We did a lot of that, and then off of those, you had to have the rope. So we did a lot of rope work. And then it kind of just started to fade away because of time, and people got busy, and, we stopped training. And then we realized, hey, we can't do this anymore. And I keep thinking now that, it's going to start coming back to some of these fire departments. They're going to start, it seems like the people that we're getting are more into maybe doing a little bit more of that outside firefighting type stuff.
Yeah, I agree. And the other thing, I mean, look, fire responses across the country are down, right? So the numbers say every year, and it's important, especially in the volunteer service. It's important to keep people engaged and feeling like they have a purpose. So
Right.
I think a lot of this specialty stuff is what keeps people engaged. I know I can speak a little bit for my organization. We're involved in a few different things outside of firefighting, and it appeals to different people. So it helps with recruitment and retention, because they're getting involved in something that they enjoy, right? Might not be interior firefighting might not be their thing, but they like playing in the water, or they like flying a drone, or they like doing whatever else. And, and it keeps them engaged, and it gives everybody sense of purpose, which is hugely important when it comes to retaining members.
They have to have a reason to come.
Right. Yeah. I was just going to say the same thing. You have to get them in the door.
Yeah, exactly. If sweeping the floors and washing the trucks is not going to keep people coming for very long, right?
And we talk a lot about like outreach for youth, and I do we've done a couple episodes about mentoring, and it's a really important thing to me personally. But when we're out and talking to schools, I always try to bring up, like, there's firefighting, and then there's the EMS portion of it that firemen do. And then I also talk about the special rescue, the dive team, the water rescue team, the ice water rescue, the rope team, because when I don't know that kids in the high school level really have an understanding about all those different jobs. Is that your experience because you talk in the community as well?
Yeah, we
Syracuse
do.
Fire.
The Fowler School in Syracuse now has turned into PSLA, Public Service Leadership Academy.
Right.
And they have kids there that are there for just fire, EMS. And sometimes they don't realize everything that goes into the whole fire side. They don't understand that, there's that tech rescue side and those disciplines. They get a little bit of it, but not much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and it's a really great thing to build up on them as far as interest.
I started in the Explorers in a little department, Chittenango, a couple years ago. And a few weeks ago, I was in Erie County doing some flashover training, and the department had some juniors or explorers there that were at the firehouse. And the kids seemed really interested. And it's just great to see, like, kids that spent their weekend doing that instead of,
Mhm.
you know, something else where they, you know, they enjoyed it, they wanted to be there. And, you know, it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
you know,
it's nice to see like that shift, because it used to just be like 4 year college, 4 year college, 4 year college, 4 year
Yeah.
college. And now there seems to be at least a little bit of a renewed interest in trades and trade
Yeah.
programs. And I think that is so important and so valuable for like for the kids, for the students, for sure, but just us as a country, because
Yeah.
you have that whole giant group of tradesmen that are retirement age or past retirement age that are still working because you can't get anybody into that field.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, let's face it. Look, I know back when I came out of high school and that was a while ago, Kara, that friends of mine that did 4 years in school at some pretty expensive colleges that ended up coming back to the hometown and working for the family business or doing something completely unrelated to what they went to college for. So they spent a lot of money to essentially probably do what they could have done anyway.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. It's definitely it's good to see that, and I
Mhm.
think all of this is helps getting kids involved in the emergency services early, and getting them to understand that this could be a pathway for them if it's something that they're interested in. And the Explorer posts are phenomenal. The age restricted programs, at 16 are phenomenal. It's just I mean, it helps all of us to fill our ranks, and sometimes it's only for a few years. But you know what? I also know kids that, maybe started in a small hometown department and served for a couple of years, got their certifications, went off to serve in another state or for the military,
Right.
or became a career firefighter in another state, whatever it may be, and hey, at least you're setting the groundwork for them to, remain in the service and continue to serve, which I think is hugely important.
Right. You're thinking locally, but at global action, right? Because wherever they end up, they're going to carry that service oriented attitude with them, hopefully. And maybe they will stay in the fire service wherever they go. And that benefits all of us.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. So Paul, what else have you got going on? I know you're out teaching for the state chiefs. You're doing your ABCs a little bit, right? Of the rescue company. It's good to see some hands-on stuff starting to happen coming out of this whole
Yes.
COVID thing, which I'm sure that that makes everybody happy. That we're actually able to get out a little bit now. So what have you got going on that at least for those that are in New York that might want to get out and actually get some quality hands-on training?
So, like I said, last couple weeks we were in Erie County, out Buffalo area.
Mhm.
We did flashover one weekend, and then the following weekend we did fire behavior class. And I don't know if you know anybody that's been to the fire behavior with the state chiefs. It kind of relates a little bit to the rescue ABCs type thing, having a plan,
Okay.
because it gets into the fire side, as far as, we stretch lines, we want to go in and do our searches. Sometimes it's not the ideal way to get in, so we do a little bit of vent enter search training.
Mhm.
They get to sit and watch the fire behavior, how it acts, instead of just the normal burn when you get on and get your IFO class,
Right. Sure.
So, it challenges you to think of other avenues to get in, to get your search done, to hopefully find victims and get them out. And it gives you a little confidence. So that's been going on. That's going to be running around now a little bit.
Great.
Other than that, just a lot going on at work. We got a recruit class in here in Syracuse with 27 people now.
Wow.
So that's going well. Work's been a little, all right. We've had some fires here and there. The other day we had two fires. Yeah, well, one fire with two houses. So we stayed inside for both of them, and ended up putting them both out, so it went well. Good afternoon.
Awesome.
you know.
All good stuff. And it's good to see things, starting to open up a little bit. I know, I think everybody is getting to the point where they're kind of over all the Zoom training and the staring at the screen all the time. Not that I want to tell everybody not to do that, because I'm part of an online conference coming up in a couple of weeks through the state where we've got like 300 people signed up. So people are still obviously signing up for that Zoom training platform, but I know everybody is anxious to get out and put their hands on again and, get some burns in and just, get back
That's the instructor weekend. Is that what you're doing?
I am doing the fire services conference, the fire services.
Yeah.
Well, it's the fire services virtual conference
Yep.
this year. Yeah. And I'm doing a setting volunteers up for success type class. But great enrollment. It's great to see. And they've got enrollment from, again, all over the country. We even got one enrollee from Canada. So, there's people from all over the place signing up for these things. So it's great to see, people just, jonesing for education, which I love, but there's still nothing like hands-on,
Right.
or being in the classroom.
Hopefully with the weather getting better and the COVID getting better, that, everybody's going to be out, stretching some hose, throwing some ladders.
Yeah.
Get back to being ourselves.
For sure.
That's right.
For sure. And I don't know if this guy listens to the podcast religiously or not, but I'm going to throw his name out there only because you brought him up before. But another one of our classmates from back in the day is Sean Egan from up in Buffalo. And he does a podcast also, Thin Red Line Radio. So, hey, Sean, if you happen to be listening to Paul on this podcast, don't forget you actually still owe me one to come on here as well. So so good guy. But Kara, anything else?
No, I really appreciate Paul taking the time. It's always interesting to learn about different topics and bring it to the volunteer and career community. And we're so happy to have you with us tonight. Thank you.
It was pretty interesting, pretty fun. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Paul, I appreciate it. Again, I know sometimes it takes a little time to hook these things up and get everybody on the same schedule, but really appreciate your input and your knowledge and years of service and sharing it with our listeners and our YouTube viewers. So really appreciate you taking some time out of your schedule to hang out with us tonight.
Thank you guys for doing this. This is a great podcast.
All right. Thanks,
Thank
Paul.
you.
Appreciate it. And stay healthy and stay safe. All right.
All right. See you later.
Bye-bye.